Should I do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody, I will attempt to turn things off to remove noise. We've got a lot of things plugged in here. Steel Beans, what's going on?
Just traveling in Europe for the first time, dripping sweat, hitting the shutdown stations, 12 egg salutes, trying to get to the hotel around 7 in the morning after driving forever, and then we eat as much as we can to force ourselves to go to sleep.
Wow. Well, this is going to be a fun interview for me because honestly, I kind of wasn't even sure that you were real until I actually met you.
Hell yeah.
What I mean by that is I wasn't really sure this thing was real.
Right.
And it's... so let's start with this. People will probably have seen you, you know, on the internet or, you know, the Tenacious D tour, but you've been doing this for way longer than anybody would think. So what's the deal?
Yeah.
Where did this all, I mean, how did you even come up with this crazy idea?
Well, we've started referring to it as the 20-year overnight sensation. And, you know, I started playing drums when I was 2. My grandparents, they were in a rhythm and blues band, and they put a drum set in front of me. And I got into guitar around like 7th grade. And just started kind of learning every Zeppelin, Pink Floyd kind of song that I could. Got into guitar really to just write songs. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 2005, I had done a lot of like punk rock house shows, stuff like that. And then I started putting together my own band of my friends to play my songs, which were not as heavy as all of our friends' bands, you know, because I wanted to be like 60s, 70s stuff. And just after a few years of having my friends in the band and them like people not showing up on time or getting just absolutely hammered, they're like, well, Jeremy's our friend. It's, you know, it's all good. We'll just not show up. So I sat down texting them at the guitar and the drums, and I just kind of like, it's like, where are you guys? And then just kind of did it on accident. But I was really just strumming probably one chord, and it didn't incorporate the double kick drum. So a couple years later, our drummer, he was snowed in the mountains, couldn't make it to a show. So like as a joke, I did that show on the guitar and the drums. And it wasn't until years later when I started doing it regularly. It's like a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think there's any other way to answer that. I mean, you couldn't really go, yeah, well, I was 2 and then I learned everything, and then that's, it's...
Right, right.
But how has it evolved? I mean, did it start as very much a sort of a, guitar and drums kind of vibe, and then the pedals and the keyboards and all the other kind of stuff has come into it? I mean, or...
So like originally just having it be, is it okay if I play for a second? Originally just probably going something like that. And then that evolved to what I call the, I don't know if it's summertime blues or what. Like I got a double kick pedal because of Ginger Baker and mainly because of Keith Moon. And on summertime blues, or kind of all throughout the Live at Leeds, he's doing this. So I started doing that, and then later, kind of that evolved into, But then right before our first kind of real tour back in October, I started like trying some of my older songs that were really meant for a trio. They were never meant to be done like this, and started squeezing in some of the single stroke fills. So it went from to, and sort of trying to get my so attitude. And then, which is a very recent evolution of it to be able to get those single stroke fills in. So I kind of like, if I feel comfortable doing it, then I feel like I'm not trying hard enough or something.
Oh, so you're forcing yourself to the edge of, messing it all up to just feel like you've pushed it to the extreme.
Yeah, dude, half of my show, which may be hard to see for like these big shows that I've done, one thing that doesn't come across is that half my show is me battling my equipment. The mic stand falls right in the middle of the best part of the song when I'm like intense and I'm worked into it. The mic stand will go chunk. So I have to go and I have to make it part of the show and make it funny, because half of the show is the pedal stops working or the cymbal goes inside out or this falls over. It's like that's kind of half of the show is everything going wrong.
How are you with that sense that, what do you want people to see you as? Do you want people to see you as an accomplished musician kind of writing and doing cool songs, or is it a theatrical, is there some comedy in there that you just want people to, I'm kind of interested in.
That's such a good question, man. I kind of live in my own world with like how I see myself, and everything past that doesn't matter. Like, I suppose the polished version of myself that I see myself that I'd like people to see, I guess, is, in the full band, which Sean plays bass in, and it's a 5-piece, sometimes it's a 10-piece. It's more theatrical and planned out, and there's lighting and capes and all kinds of fun stuff, and it's song after song, and that's kind of like a production. And the solo show, there is stand-up comedy. I'll stop in the middle of the set because one guy's doing something weird, and I'll like spotlight him and roast him or something, So, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I guess a better answer is my main thing is just writing songs every day. Mm-hmm. That's my main obsession, is writing songs, and I think that it's, I've always just tried to make it about the songs, and that's a great question. I'll be honest, it's one I don't really think about that often. It's as strange as it is. Like,
I think it's a good answer, and I like I guess the fact that the song is at the heart of everything you're trying to do. I'm quite pleased that that's the answer, because I sort of feel like if the aim was to do a show where you're kind of intentionally hoping the microphone stand falls down halfway through, that would be funny. That would sort of spoil.
Insane.
Yeah, so everything is about trying to produce a song.
Yeah.
How was when did keys and samples and pedals and everything come into it?
Well, I think originally maybe like when I started doing the one-man band full-time for a while is 2013. I kind of lost access to the place where the band rehearsed, and I moved into this little kind of mother-in-law kind of cabin in my grandma's backyard. I had nowhere to rehearse at all, so I just tried to book every Thursday, Friday, Saturday I could. And the only rehearsal for this show, it was on stage every night. And then kind of as a joke, as if it wasn't ridiculous enough, I started bringing like a micro Korg and just doing a bass line. But then at some point, like if I set the decay really long, I can hit a note that'll go 2 or 3 seconds and then solo on top of that. And that kind of became the thing. Sampler is really just some drum loops, or it'll be something that's part of a joke, or like I have samples of the R. Kelly interview where he starts screaming, "Y'all killing me with this," and so I have that in here. Y'all killing me with this, and stuff like that. There's a couple drum loops in there of my actual drum set, and I use that in a couple of the songs. But more or less, it's like a pain for every sound guy, and then I use it for 10 seconds, and they're like, "Oh God."
It kind of sounds like the success has come from just bad luck after bad luck after bad luck of band members and rehearsal studios, and then all of a sudden this unbelievable success has kind of come. I mean, that must have freaked you out, didn't it? Because it will. I mean, tell me about what was life like before your first massive video on YouTube?
Well, my life in the last 10 or so years, like, I had a kid 6 years ago, and I started my own lawn care company. I mow lawns, and I've kind of used that as an excuse to wake up at noon, go mow lawns at my own pace, and then have all the time to work on music in the band and see my kid here and there. So my life pre the band is like not always great, but I kind of feel like really content spiritually and artistically before this all happened, just writing songs every day and mowing lawns, which I love as well. And I felt so lucky to kind of have the life that I built, I don't really have I'm broke, but for the most part, everything is. So this all happening is like a crazy bonus. I just looked at my phone for a week straight as it was like, and I was just like, I think I went a week without sleep. But the fun part was a few weeks before, like a couple months before that video went viral, I booked a tour down the coast of solo shows down through Oregon, California, Arizona. And all these places were like taking a chance on me. They were like, "Oh, this guy's got 1,200 Instagram followers. Okay, all right." And then between the time, and I had $300 to my name. And I figured we'll play the first show, we'll put out a tip jar, and maybe sell a couple posters, and then the tip jar will just perpetually pay for the gas and the hotel in the next place. There's no way that would have worked. But fortunately, that video went viral like a week before this ambitious tour that was way out of my league. And all these same places were calling, like, saying their phones were ringing off the hook. "We're concerned about capacity." And I was like, wow, it's crazy.
And what year was that?
That was just back in October. Yeah.
So
it's surreal.
I kind of knew it was fairly recent, but I hadn't realized it was within the last 12 months. So you're going from, I mean, just, you couldn't be any more normal than mowing a lawn during the day, trying to do the, I mean,
well,
that's
normal may not be the right word for me, but
that's going to resonate with a million other artists who are just going, "Yeah, I'm working a day job and I'm doing this," and then one crazy video, one thing leads to another, and then, I mean, I still can't believe that it's like, I still can't believe that 2 days ago you finished supporting Tenacious D on the UK. I mean, it's like, what does that phone call go down?
So, I like to, at the shows, I like to take a moment to like preface or explain this by, I'll say that I don't have any management or a booking agent or a record label. I have no money. This is all a real life story that is taking place in the movie of my life right now. And that video, just for whatever reason, took off, and it's like hitting the lottery. And there's a long story and a short version. I'll say the short version is I got an email from... Well, no, that's the long one. I got an email from somebody claiming to be Jack Black. And I was like, wow, man, thanks for the message, but if this is really you, send me a picture and it says Tenacious Beans in your hands. Never heard back. Then I messaged Jack on Instagram, and he actually responded, and he said, that's not me.
Oh,
And
heartbreak.
yeah, like, so, but I was surprised he even responded to me. Like,
Yeah.
I had just got the blue check, which was a huge runaround, and I mean, I had 1,200 followers in October, and now we have 240,000, which just blows my mind. And so people respond to messages easier. And Jack was like, no, not me. And I said, damn, so you mean I sent all those dick pics to some random stranger? And he thought that was funny, and I sent one more message, and I was like, thank you for your time. I'm a big fan. I saw you in the Paramount in Seattle. It'd be cool to rock out with you. We're open for you someday. Send. And then I put my phone away. And then a few weeks later, his management reached out to me directly, and it's crazy. It's an absolute dream. I never expected this, honestly, not to be this quick or in this way. We were just driving around on that the West Coast tour back in October, which is my first real tour outside of Washington. And I was driving, and we were just, the three of us were like, oh yeah, what if we open for them? What if we open for, and one of us said, what if we open for Tenacious D? I was like, they probably don't even they won't want an opener. And that's, even if that did happen, that'd be years from now. And it's literally like a month later.
I've never met Jack Black, and I've only ever seen him in the movies that I'm sure most people watching this have seen him in. But I kind of feel like you would be a kindred spirit to him. I could see the two of you feeling like, you know...
I feel like he's a major inspiration for somebody like myself who I've always been really, you know... I've been a class clown and high energy, and I feel like somebody like him is an inspiration to be less inhibited and be... to really be yourself and be comfortable in your own skin. And aside from being just a crazy good singer, and their songs are great, and we miss traveling with them like already. Like their whole crew is the nicest people, and their band is so tight. I mean, and it's funny. The show is funny. There's lots of little theatrical bits where they, you know, walk on one side of the stage and talk to each other, and it's a lot of fun. And we already miss their stage manager. We're just... Yeah, it was a blast.
What was the most number of people you played to before that, and then the most number of people you played to on the tour?
Well, we've been wondering that, and I I think the main place I play back home is a place called Tony V's. It used to be called Jimmy Z's, and that's like the first place I played when I was a teenager, and it maybe holds 200 people. I think the capacity says 300, but 200 feels like a lot. If I can get 100 people in there, I'm like, wow, I did it, man. My promotion worked. People saw the flyer. People came out. And that still feels crazy. I mean, we just played at the Grace in London, and that's like a little smaller than Tony's, but when it's packed, it's like, this is a lot of people. So yeah, I think before the O2, before touring with the D altogether, maybe 150.
And then the O2, sold out at the O2.
Yeah, insane. And I had like, I like to tell the guys, and I tell people that there's like two modes I have, and one is I'm kind of oblivious to the scope of this, and I'm just working on the function I'm doing right now, and none of this is real. I'm just playing guitar, or I'm driving to the next show. And then the other mode is just crying my eyes out, like in disbelief. It's very emotional, and I do very well. But when I did Moon Age Daydream, I think I closed with it, and I was like, everybody get your phones out, and everybody got them out, the flashlights, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God.
I can't imagine that you'll be going back to playing to 100 people in Tony's anytime soon, will you?
I hope so.
I mean, if you're playing in Tony's, there's going to be more than 100 people there, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would. Maybe we'll just do like 6 nights.
Yes, minimum $400 a ticket.
Oh, there's a festival back home called Fisherman's Village that I play every year, and I like the free stage because I know that's my tax bracket, and that way my friends can see it. And they put me like in a main stage this year. I was like, no. It was still cool, but I love the free stage.
I'm still slightly amazed that you're so grounded about it all. You know, it's like you're a big star now. It's like, well, you know, maybe that's what am I saying? It's like you're recognizable. Guitar people, like, you know, regular people will be going, have you seen Steel Beans doing his thing? You know, and it's like it's not small time anymore. You know, it's well known.
Well, I appreciate you pointing that out because, yeah, I really feel like a bar level guy walking into a backstage area, and we kind of feel like, should we be back here? And yeah, man, you know, people, some of my friends would be like, don't let it go to your head, and I feel insulted by that because it's like I'm never going to be a different person. And I kind of see this, like I'm distanced from myself watching all this going like,
Do you want to mow the lawn afterwards? Just
yeah.
To sort of go like, you know.
What kind of mower do you got?
You know what, this is the worst thing as well. My tiny back garden at home is artificial grass.
No.
I know. I don't even need
It feels good
someone
on
to
your
mow the
feet,
lawn.
though.
It doesn't. It's awful. I'm moving
Really?
house soon and I'm going to have real grass back then. I still think that the coolest thing about listening to you and watching your videos on YouTube is how quickly I went from seeing it as kind of like a novelty cover of something with a guy playing everything to actually enjoying it for what it is, which is it's pretty raw, and you can't play 5 different instruments in the same way that you would if it was 5 individuals playing it. But you begin to appreciate what that brings to the song, and I know there'll be inevitable comparisons to bands like the White Stripes and stuff like that. But yeah, I get it because it's not, you know, you don't sound like Jack White or anything like that. But it's the sense that there's a certain energy and almost a chaos to what's being played that just gives the song a vibe, and it's a cool vibe. And I don't know whether you even consciously realize you're doing that, or if it's just that's the only way you can play 5 instruments at once.
Well, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I like the intensity, and it's stripped down, and it kind of goes through a filter. You know, I like to think that a song, I could take any song and play it with a bar chord and make it feel more like the Stooges because I'm just on guitar and drums or something. But yeah, I think most of what I do is happy accidents and not really thinking too much about it. But no, I love the White Stripes, and but that's not intentional. Like I've never set out to sound like anything.
Yeah. Let's talk about your gear. We are a gear show. There is an epic looking pedal board underneath here that we'll get some sweeps of. But let's start with, well, why don't you start with where it all started for you? Tell us about your drums and kind of, is this yours or is this your hire rig whilst you're in the UK?
This is a rental, but they had Silver Sparkle, and I emailed them for months and months saying like, okay, so, but you're sure it's Silver Sparkle? And then I like sent a picture of the kit, and they're like, yeah, that's it. I was like, okay.
So you got Ludwig at home, have you?
Yeah, it's like the Fab Maple 22-inch kick. It's like 22, 13, and 16. And I think 2 years ago I got that kit, and I just really like how the shells, I can tune them low. I'm in a low tuning phase where I've gone super high, I've gone medium, and now I just like tuning everything kind of low. It has this low depth, this pound to it. But
have you got a drummer that maybe has inspired you to play? I think you mentioned Keith Moon at the beginning as someone that you really liked, but who are your kind of most inspirational drummers that you look up to?
Well, yeah, for me, definitely Keith Moon. and Bonham and Ginger Baker probably.
Wild men of rock.
Yeah, it changed the way I looked at drums because when I was a kid, I'd go home from school and I knew all the 90s Seattle rock because I grew up with that, and it was 20 minutes away from where I lived. That was a huge part of it, made me want to play music. But by high school, I kind of plateaued, and I was just going to become another drummer that sounded the same, whatever that means. And then when I found, first I collected every Beatles album on vinyl, and around the early 2000s, the radio I was not interested in what they were putting out at all. So that became the songwriting quest of collecting all this rock. And then after knowing every Beatles song and finding Keith, I was like, damn, I didn't know people played drums like that. And then that turned me on to listening to Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich because those single stroke fills, I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought everybody just went I was like, people go it's like, okay. So that set me up the next couple years to get that right. And then I guess I played drums for 16 years before getting a double pedal, and I broke several double pedals. The actual footboard snapping in half, the just every part coming apart on it. And I was just telling Willie the other day that at my old house, it's like a house from 1920, I'd play drums for so many hours in the basement. When I go upstairs, the carpenter nails would rattle out of the floor up like a half inch, and they'd cut my feet open sometimes. I'd go to the bathroom. I'd go have to hammer them back in.
Would that be if you couldn't, if you were just going to be a single instrument musician in a band, drums would be your go-to, would it?
I feel like I'm the best on drums. I feel like I can pretend to work, like if you put me in a room of real jazz musicians, which I'm not. I've never had lessons. I don't know anything. I feel like I could hang in there on drums, and then on guitar, my whole background in guitar is blues music for sure, and I'm not trying to pretend to be an absolute shredder or a jazz guy, but I feel like I can play jazz drums. But on anything else, it's like funk or rock or. Okay, so definitely I'm a drummer, but in the band I usually play guitar and sing. And I jump around, and I'm like the front guy. And since 2007, that's always been my thing. Other than this,
let's talk about guitars then. I think the Silvertone has the kind of the image fits. That the kind of the vintage vibe, slightly quirky looking kind of cool guitar. But have you always played those kind of American earlier? I suppose the sort of early sort of catalog style guitars that are coming out of America in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I think, I could never afford to get a real Strat or a real Les Paul. And, I had a Mexican Strat that was all right. It was a humbucker. My grandpa, he picked it out of a wall of like 100 of them, and he found the one that played really good, because they do vary. And I like that guitar. And, I just I think in 2006, now I can't remember the name of the model, but they're like square, and it's got the white pick guard, looks like a scimitar or something. They're like red and glittery.
Right.
I don't know what they're called, but that was the first one I got. And then I got this one, or my other one of these, in like 2006. And I don't know, it just has an instant sound that I can't get with anything else. And over the last 16 years or so, I have like a cheap faded SG. I have a nice Strat that I got, and I'll kind of alternate between them for whatever version of the band I'm doing. But I always come back to this one. There could be 6 months to a year where this is not the sound I need, but I'll come back to it and I'll be like, yeah, why did I ever switch?
I've never seen the pickups on there are really interesting because they're kind of like mounted on two metal posts above the scratch plates. It's like almost like a floating pickup rather than recessed into the body. It's just it's a really cool, unless of course that the pickup is in the body and that's just some sort of ornate cover, but it's a really cool design.
You can actually see under the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never noticed that before. It's been over a decade. I did not know. That's interesting. So the wiring goes through one of those posts.
I guess. I mean, like I say, I don't know whether I've never seen a pickup quite like that before. We'll get a close-up for you guys so you can see what I'm saying. But then it's like a floating bridge and an old-fashioned style trem system, and kind of a chunky neck, but not too uncomfortable. And I think it's super cool. All those guitars of that era have all got a certain charm and character to them. But and then amp-wise, we've got. I think you said you had a twin normally at home, but why did you choose the Super Reverb while you were over here?
I used like a solid state Sun combo amp for a long time, and that went wrong. And my grandpa had picked out a 65 reissue twin, and he said, like, I noticed in a lot of your stuff you're using kind of clean tones. You should try this. And he gifted it to me. And I went to use it in the same way that I used the 112 combo, and it just ripped my head off. And I was like, how do I use this? So I adjusted all my gains, and it's so clean. Putting a fuzz through that, it was like you hear all these high frequencies. It's like listening through studio monitors. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow. And then I just found the Fender Reverb is, it can't be beat. Like, especially with this guitar. You could just put one overdrive and just get all those classic twangy spaghetti western tones or whatever. And I used that from 2011 until just a few months ago, before it had any issues, like hundreds of gigs. And we did a gig at YouTube headquarters. They weren't able to get a twin, but they were able to rent a 1968 Super Reverb. And I was just like sound checking. I was like, God, this sounds nice. I've never owned an amp with 10s in my whole life somehow. And then so the last 6 months or whatever, that's become my new favorite thing.
You mentioned your granddad 2 or 3 times in this interview. He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Has he managed to see your last 12 months worth of the meteoric rise? What does he think?
Well, he's a serious guitar player. He's really good. And he actually flew out here for the O2. And I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he came here. I think he got on a bus just to
Came to Andertons, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wish I'd known.
Yeah, we started watching the show in like 2015. And I don't think he'd ever left the country either. But it's pretty cool to have him come out. And we walked around Camden and got lost on the subways for a while.
That must be special, though, for you to be able to share your success with him. I can imagine, whether it's your kids or your grandkids, whatever, feeling like you've sort of set them on a path and then seeing them go to these kind of heights. That's kind of
my favorite part of all of this.
Yeah, I bet.
Honestly, is my grandparents. They put me into music, and then they watched me go through all these experiences, and I've come out to my shows. And my grandma, she's out dancing at most of my shows, and she was the singer in their band. He was a guitar player, she was a singer. And for this to finally happen, like, my favorite part is that they were able to see it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's absolutely wonderful. Now, this pedal board, which I've got to admit is a purple sparkle pedal board, so you may well find that Danish Pete tries to steal that from you at some point before you leave. And it's got a real mix of pedals I'm familiar with and pedals I'm not. So do you want to just give us the kind of like the quick 30-second each pedal and why kind of rundown?
Well, my pedal board is always evolving, and it's been a lot bigger than this before. But I wanted something that I could fly with, and something that just... First off, the most important thing is that this swivels into the hi-hat.
Oh, I see.
So it goes into a regular size case for transportation. But before, I have to hit these two pedals, or these two, like, now it's in individual effect mode, and now I'm toggling between my presets. Mm-hmm. And I was like doing that while like trying to get my leg over sideways and wearing a pointy boot and like. So this design, my friend Breon helped me with this swivel here. And now that it's like side on with the hi-hat, it makes life way easier for me.
it is a miracle in itself that you can even focus on pressing a button in the middle of all this. But fair enough. So what's a VF?
Yeah, this is
Oh,
Boss.
that's a vocal
Boss's
unit.
vocal pedal.
Okay. Don't think I've ever seen that before.
I think
And
I
you
got
would normally
this-
have a mic running into that and it using it on your vocals.
Yeah.
It's not right.
My mic will go here, run out to the board. All these presets are kind of made for certain songs. I have presets on here from like 2 lineups of my band ago.
Right, okay.
And kind of designed to, like, this is an overdrive that I use on the Molotov Cocktail Lounge, the video that blew up. Mm-hmm. This is the overdrive itself. This is a slapback. This is a reverb. So for that song, it's just this.
Then what else we got on there? Tons of fuzzes by the looks of things.
Yeah, I wish I could have more. Silvertone sent me their overdrive pedal, which I really love. And it's just a nice... Playing this through the super reverb just on its own is a great little EQ and boost. Turn the compressor off. And then Warm Audio sent me their Klon pedal.
Yep.
I really love it, and I love the way that it responds with the Silvertone, but also it would take up half my pedal board, unfortunately. So I'm using Way Huge's Klon. Silvertone, Klon. I'll just kind of play with them together. And the Supro pedal I used a few years ago, I really like it. So I haven't owned any distortion pedal in so long, but I just love stacking overdrives, putting one before the other. Like this Silvertone, it trims out quite a bit of high end. If you put on the Supro, I don't know, it takes some high frequencies out. And the next is Akko, this company in Germany. I bought the cocaine compressor and mid boost in like 2017. And that thing is amazing. I track bass with it. What I'll do is I'll run a bass into that and then into 1176. Anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, do you know what? And I've just literally adjusted your reverb pedal with my cable. Let me put that back.
Oh, that's what I do every night on stage.
What's the white Way Huge pedal that just says effect pedal? I don't think I've ever seen that.
So, I'm a major Queens of the Stone Age fan. Mm-hmm. And George at Way Huge, he sent me a lot of fun stuff. And I've been using Way Huge since like 2006 or something. And one thing, you know, not only do I love the pedals, but I've never had one fail. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of pedals break on me. I feel like everything, as soon as it becomes mine, gets like twice the wear that it would on anything else. And he was telling me about like a circuit that he made for Queens of the Stone Age, and that was the Conquistador, but they don't make it anymore. But like one that he gave them personally was a little different from that actual pedal that was massively released. And he sent me this, and I plugged it in. I started playing with it, and I was like, "What is this?" And it's that pedal. He just made me a one-off circuit of that, which blew my mind.
That's it. I mean, we need to hear this then.
This is about where I've been keeping it, probably.
I should say to the camera, I feel so bad here because Jeremy gave me this guitar and there was a screw sticking out the pick guard about maybe like 5 millimeters. And I said, I'll screw that back in for you. And I made a joke And you said, I think that's been sticking out the whole time I've ever had that guitar. And I made a joke that if I screw it in, I'll break something on the guitar, thinking, of course, I can't possibly break anything by just screwing the scratch plate in. But I seemingly now the guitar will not stay in its neck pickup position. So I can only deeply apologise for breaking your Silvertone guitar. I'll loosen the screw that I tightened up, and fingers crossed, it'll be okay. But there we are.
I'm not that worried about. We got neck and we got treble, so
Fair enough.
we got the middle and the treble.
I see you got a Swollen Pickle on the board. Swollen Pickle won a big fuzz shootout contest that we did the other day. That's just a killer fuzz pedal. It's just a good looking. It's got all the good pedals on it, really, hasn't it?
Well, it's hard because being able to switch like as I'm playing is. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, but then I thought I was talking to Jim Dunlop and I was like, what small pedals do you have? Like, what other small ones can I squeeze in? And I always like to have on my boards usually one just dedicated slapback and one just long delay. And I put this one as the slapback.
Yeah, I can hear this. Yeah.
But yeah, anything within my reach, and like, I had some of those caps. I bought some of those caps for the first time. They fell off after 2 shows. I really want to get that figured out, but
You don't strike me as the kind of person that's ever likely to venture down the kind of the MIDI pedal switcher route, but I sort of almost feel that could be a solution for you, given that, you just want to basically, if you wanted to change 3 pedals at once whilst you're singing, it's just like you almost just need to know, there it is.
I've thought about it because I could sync it with my vocal pedal and just have one preset. But the only downside there, the spontaneity of a big chunk of my show, because I might just go into an improvised bit altogether, and being able to go like, oh, reverb, phaser, clean, or whatever.
That's the sound. And then, when did the keyboard become like a part of the rig? Was that the last piece of the jigsaw? Or?
Honestly, it's not a necessity, but there's a couple songs I use that are based around it, and again, just the unlimited expression for improvised sections. I mean, and it gets. If I'm in America doing a 2-hour set, I really have so much like, oh, I'm going to turn the oboe sound on and go into some weird classical thing, or do a TV commercial and I need a ukulele or something. And do an insurance commercial in the middle of the show.
Right.
It gets
I see what you're
silly.
saying. So you're not actually talking about an insurance commercial, just like a gag for the show.
We have you covered anywhere you go. You blah 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 blah. Just whatever it might be.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like for anybody who's watching this, I mean, I don't know that anybody won't have seen you on the internet, but if you haven't, it's definitely going worth checking some of it out. And actually, as you say, listen to some of the music and some of the songs, because I think you can see this on 2 levels. You can absolutely see it for its entertainment value, or you can get into the music and see it for what it actually is.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at it's like, I have been doing the solo show for a long time on the side, and then I'll do my main love is the band and the songs, and then I'll go do this in the wintertime to pay rent out in the middle of nowhere, where they'll give you $150 or something. And it's literally like, it's a thing that I just happened to get noticed for on a big level, but it's not like my gimmick or my path per se. I'm just a musician that happens to do that or something.
What's the full band called then?
It's also Steel Beans.
Oh, so okay. So when you see Steel Beans, it could be either the full band or just you doing the solo thing.
Yeah, the big band is like a few years ago we had a 4-piece psychedelic group, and I brought an old Farfisa with me and a theremin and played guitar, and we all dressed in my clothes. And then last year we had like a 9-piece. We had vibraphone, trumpet, sax, violin, and we were able to do like Afrobeat stuff, P-funk kind of stuff, Zappa kind of stuff, and that's what I really get off on, is arranging all the different instruments.
Must be tough to run a 9-piece band out of a tips jar.
Oh yeah, it's a
like-
lot.
It's a labor of love, right?
We make $1,000. We all make $100. That's what I try to do.
Well, that's not so bad, is it? But all right. Well, look, I kind of feel like we should just end with another. Just give it something to the camera. I mean, I wonder if maybe I almost feel like I'm going to just sit and watch rather than play over the top of this, because I think it's more fun when you're just doing your own thing. Or maybe if I feel I can contribute anything, maybe I will. But it's man, it's been a pleasure you coming in.
Thank you so much for having me here.
No,
it's just crazy to be here.
It's a great story. You know, you deserve all the success as well. You know, it's and it's the dream, right? Just this is what it is.
Seriously.
Just keep doing what you love, and then one day things can happen fast, right? You know, the right video comes out. The next thing is the phone call changes your life, and
It is wild. And believe in yourself harder than anyone, because no one else is going to believe in you for you. And I can't even count how many people I told to f*** off on the long road of this happening. I think you should change this. Maybe do more of this. Like, no. I like the ridiculousness. Yeah.
that's what he just said. Life lessons. Well, man, it's a pleasure again, and you know, I hope you guys have a safe trip back to the States, and success continues to come your way. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, we'll be in Los Angeles probably next January doing the NAMM show. You'll be, you know, all the brands you're involved with, I'm sure will want you to come and, you know.
It's only 22 hours from my house. We can drive down there.
I don't understand America. How can it literally on the map, it doesn't look too far away, but oh well.
It's insane. That's not, I'd drive down there to see you.
Well, we'll see you there next year. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, give it up, Steel Beans.
Thank you so much. No time.
one point. That was epic.
Dude,
Fucking
so much.
epic.
That's the end of my show right now. That's how I end every night. I try to.
It's the best thing we've ever had here.
That is
No.
ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you.